velocity. Boy, that flew. Well, sometimes when they're hit, they stay hit. Kieran Tierney.
Welcome to the After Extra Time podcast, the World Football Podcast, part of the Edge of the Crowd podcast network. I'm Stuart Kavanagh, and this is the place to be for the big news, the big names, and the big games in the world game. First things first, let me introduce my co-host. He is the editor-in-chief at thesportsbank.net, author of Transatlantic Passage, How the Premier League Redefined Soccer in America, and the only man happier than Gary Neville after yesterday's result, Mr. Paul M. Banks. Paul, mates, congratulations. How you doing?
Yeah, it's time to gloat. All right. After 9-0 aggregate last year, after not beating Liverpool in how many tries and how many, it's payback time.
Yeah, mate, it was a sensational result. I'd like to say I was shocked. The only thing I can hang my hat on is that I called it, but it didn't make the pill any less bitter to swallow, shall we say.
For me, it's more of a feeling about like payback and redemption than it is happiness. But hey, you know what? There's worse places to be in the table now than because you being a Liverpool fan, you would know that. You would know that there's a worse place to be at the table. Oh, boom.
All right. Okay. I'll let you have that one, mate. We'll definitely delve into Liverpool versus Manchester United a bit later on. But Paul, let us know about your week. You had the Chicago Air and Water Show. Tell me all about that, mate.
Absolutely. The fabulous Blue Angels. It's always fun to explain to people from other countries the concept of an air show here, because America spends and wastes so much taxpayer money on our military. We've got this giant military budget that we have warplanes, we have airplanes that do nothing except just entertain people. They don't even, and obviously, it's a little bit scary to hear these, fast planes zipping around these tall buildings, but oh man, the Instagrams, the videos, the photos, I live in a building that has a rooftop pool that's fairly close to the lake, so we could see it. And every time because this is the biggest air show in the country, so which means it would then be the biggest air show in the world, because no other country on earth does stuff like this. I don't know what the air and water. The water part is, though. No one ever pays any attention to and water show. The boats. I don't know. They were just talking about the Blue Angels and the Jets. It also, top 5 Simpsons episode of all time. One of my all-time favorite was Sideshow Bob and everything. But
Paul, we got a lot to get through tonight, so it's time to just dive straight into it, my man. Let's get into our winners and losers segment for the week, as is tradition around here. Best foot forward, all that jazz. Give me your winner for the week.
Oh, I'm smiling ear to ear on this one. I'm going to go with Eric Ten Hag. There's a lot of different winners you could pick with United. Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford. 2 overrated, 2 overpaid English forwards who have been struggling. They both got on the score sheet. Rashford gets a game winner. Sancho is the answer to the trivia question: who was the first United player to score in the 2022-2023 season? I'm going with Ten Hag. He benched Ronaldo. He benched Harry Maguire. So there you go. He looked at, he's like, oh, here's the greatest of all time. Possibly meet the bench. Yes. Here's the most expensive defender of all time. Have a seat, buddy. And more than that, he also his conditioning, when he took the day off, the calculations showed that Brentford outran United as a team by 8 miles. So he took United's day off and he made him run. Every guy had to run 8 miles to make up for it. So his hardline approach is working. So that's my winner. Now, the reason I have a co-winner, or I have a runner-up winner, is I picked this after the weekend was over, I went through our show notes, our preparation, and I picked a winner before the United Liverpool game, and because I didn't expect what was going to happen, so I can't leave these guys out either. As you called it, Jesse Marsh and his merry band of Americans.
Yeah, they were sensational on the weekend, weren't they?
Yeah, so I'm going with Leeds United States of America as the runner-up. I can't stand all the Ted Lasso references because Ted Lasso is about like a bumbling, like a nice guy, a nice meaning man who's in over his element and clueless, who kind of looks into success. But Jesse Marsh is a tactician. He's a student of the game. He's calculating. So they need to drop that Ted Lasso bullshit. But yeah, I just want to say that I was as wrong about Jesse Marsh and his Leeds United as you were about Crystal Palace last year. So
Jesse Marsh, he's doing great things for American football. Early days still, obviously, in this season, but he's doing everything he can to kind of erode that Ted Lasso stereotype from the popular consciousness.
I definitely, they got to be a threat to finish on the first page of the table. And the Americans they brought in, Hero was, writing them off because they shipped off their star players. But I don't know. Don't you have something to say about my other winner though?
Oh, man, just listen, I do. I'm very magnanimous in defeat. We just lost to the better side on the day, which is probably one of the hardest sentences I ever have to say when talking about Manchester United. Erik ten Hag, strong management, and I think that's what Manchester United needs. It takes a lot of balls to, introduce Cristiano Ronaldo and Harry Maguire to the bench. But I think, you'd be hard pressed to even find a United fan who didn't think that should happen. Rumors of Ronaldo to Atletico Madrid just keep getting louder and louder. I think his days are numbered there at Old Trafford. Harry Maguire sitting on the bench. Now, do you think that was horses for courses because Darwin Núñez was suspended, which meant Liverpool's forward line was a little bit light on, so he could afford to play Lisandro Martinez? Or do you think that Harry Maguire would have started if Darwin Núñez was in the starting lineup for Liverpool?
Looking at United Twitter, United fan Twitter, the United online community, the hatred of Harry Maguire has been deep for a while. And one of the common threads is hey, give Erik ten Hag time. He's going to say what he has to say in public, and he's going to say all the right things. But they're like, he sees what we see. So he'll drop him, and he did. And one of the biggest, so many United supporters said this after the match or during the match. The starting center back pairing needs to be Varane and Martinez. And then they also like this idea of the new signing, Terrell Malacia, whatever.
Yep.
In place of Luke Shaw. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Yep. That's it. Like, maybe I've been too critical of United summer transfer window. Maybe a lot of people have been too critical of it. Maybe this idea about, he's making it all Dutch and he's signing players that are the level of the Eredivisie. They're not level of the Premier League. Well, maybe not. Maybe he's right and we're wrong.
Yeah, well, stranger things have happened. One thing is for sure, Manchester United's defense was brilliant. Varane, Martinez, the new left back, Malacia, did you say? I'm not sure how to say his name properly, but as is tradition here on the pod. And I thought Dalot was pretty good at right back too. It was interesting when Wan-Bissaka came on. All of a sudden Manchester United looked a lot more vulnerable in defence. So I think his days. I mean, this is not news, but I think his days are definitely numbered. He needs to move to a different club if he wants to start games of football in the Premier League. But Paul, let's move on to my winner for the week. And my winner for the week, is North London football. Arsenal sit pretty at the top of the table, playing some beautiful football. You talk about transfer windows, man. They fucking nailed their transfer window. Gabriel Jesus and Alexander Zinchenko have just brought everything that they kind of need. Jesus is just he's an animal. Looks like he's relishing being the main man as opposed to being part of the supporting cast at Manchester City. And I don't know if you saw it, but William Saliba's goal against Bournemouth was a thing of beauty. And it kind of baffles me that management was thinking about shipping him off to transfer him out of the club. Because he has just been sensational. And he's keeping $60 million signing from last year, Ben White, out of his natural position. Arsenal have been fantastic. And the other side of that, of course, North London football is Tottenham Hotspur. You wouldn't say that they're setting the world on fire with the way that they're playing, but what they're doing is they're picking up points. They're winning. In previous years, the Wolves fixture, they would have lost. The Chelsea fixture, they definitely would have lost. And, it's an old adage. If you can play badly and win or pick up points, I guess, in the Premier League, it's the sign of a very, very good side. And that's exactly what Tottenham are doing. So they're my winners, North London football this week.
Yeah, I think we talked about this in the preview show that I thought Tottenham nailed their transfer window pretty well. I felt that under Antonio Conte, they're going to start to really turn around now. I don't know how long it's going to last long term, but still have a feeling that they're going to win a trophy of some sort and finally break that drought. The drought that's getting almost Chicago Cubs-like. And then on the other side with Arsenal, it's the Manchester City-fication of Arsenal is taking shape. And I would say this to the crankies, to adieu to whoever was in charge, whoever made the call of giving Arteta some time, because by Premier League Big Six club standards, or even just by Premier League clubs in general, he really should have been sacked or would have been sacked. And it's a good thing that they didn't, because now you're reaping the benefits of that.
Yeah, 100%. It kind of harkens back to when we were talking about the announcement of Ten Hag towards the end of last season and throughout the summer. A lot of Premier League clubs are too trigger happy to sack the coach. And, it's sometimes the right decision, but particularly, I guess you could say the same thing about Tottenham, although Conte's kind of, he's turned him around quite quickly. But, you give a coach a time, particularly a talented one, and usually he'll right the ship. And 100% Mikel Arteta has righted the ship there at Arsenal.
It's amazing.
All right, Paul.
Top of the table, the only undefeated team.
We've had the cream of the crop. Let's have the bottom of the crop. I don't know what the opposite of cream.
The bottom of the barrel.
The bottom of the barrel. There you go. See, that's why this podcast works so well. Let's have the bottom of the barrel, mate. Give me your loser for the past week in football.
Well, as I had said before, I thought perhaps West Ham United's window may be closing. Now I'm really starting to believe it. Now I'm thinking, I think you and I both kind of talked about that in the preseason, that you can kind of forget about European football. Don't forget that, just a couple years before they made the Europa League, or maybe it was even just one season before the Europa League, they needed to survive. They needed to fight for their survival down to Championship Sunday. They were that bad, so they can go right back to that. And as a Manchester United fan, I can always tell you that anything with David Moyes is probably going to get bad at some time. Yeah. And then I can tell you that if David Moyes is in charge, it's going to get worse.
Yeah, West Ham have had a truly shocking start to the season. 3 losses, no goals, despite investing in a new striker. So Mikel Antonio and Gianluca Scamacca, they both played together for about 25 minutes, weekend just gone. and it's a horrible mishmash of styles there. They just they're not going to gel as an attacking threat. It's certainly going to be one or the other. I've heard, in other media outlets, people saying that Antonio's looked a little bit leggy at the beginning of this season, and I 100% agree. But I wouldn't stop there. Souček has looked leggy. Declan Rice has been kind of anonymous after he had an incredible 24 months prior to this season. West Ham are in some strife, and the way they're playing at the moment, you just don't see where their win is going to, or where their opportunity to pick up at least a point is going to come from.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing we got to remember with the Premier League is everybody who talked about United possibly getting relegated after the Brentford loss, the jokes we made, a year ago on the show at this time about Arsenal getting relegated, things will moderate. Things will, so-called regression to the mean, as they call it in stats class. But they're not good. They're certainly not good.
They are 100% not good. You can call West Ham a lot of things. Good is not one of them. And in that vein, mate, let's move on to my loser. And it was a very obvious pick for me.
This is going to be so sweet.
It was Liverpool, terrible performance against Manchester United. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from United, who I thought played the game perfectly. There's some real issues at Liverpool. I mentioned last week this is probably going to be a season of transition that I didn't think that they would challenge for the league. Let me tell you, they did nothing to change my mind on that opinion. Yesterday morning / yesterday afternoon. They were terrible. They were second best. It didn't even look like the same team that played against United last season and just handled them so easily. There's some genuine concern there. Roberto Firmino is in horrible form. Virgil van Dijk, I mean, he is one of the best central defenders in the world. There's no getting away from that, but he is definitely experiencing probably the worst low of his Liverpool career form-wise. He's been woeful. The midfield lacks dynamism. A midfield of containing Jordan Henderson and James Milner in a game against Manchester United in the Premier League in 2022-23 Premier League season should just never happen. There is a caveat, however. There is a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. There is something for Liverpool fans to hold on to, and it is the fact that we have so many players injured at the moment. But there's no doubt that we're missing that X factor player in the midfield, and unless they rectify that, it could be a tough old season leading into the World Cup for Liverpool.
Yeah, heading into this match, I wasn't totally buying your Liverpool skepticism about how they were already eliminated from the title race or they weren't going to compete for the title. But now I completely buy it. They are not title contenders and they won't be this season. That said, I don't know what the drop-off is going to be. I still think they're going to be in the top 4 mix. And this is, I was going to ask you, but you already answered it. Like, what is the problem beyond the obvious? And that's all the injuries. But injuries don't account for this. And like you said, it's guys who've been unreal, just off the charts, coming down to earth.
Yeah, that's the great point. Like, all these players who are having low. Trent Alexander-Arnold, woeful. Something is not right with Trent Alexander-Arnold at the moment. I'm not sure what it is, but his body language on the pitch, I don't know if it's because they're losing and he just hates losing, which is, it's a well-documented fact that he hates losing, like most professional sportsmen. But something, I don't know, something has happened, and his body language is not great at the moment. Andy Robertson has been poor, as evidenced by the fact he's been hooked the last 2 games. And we're talking about a pair of, world-class fullbacks, arguably the best pair of fullbacks in world football for the last 2 or 3 years. Virgil van Dijk been poor. I don't think he's been helped by the fact that he's had to chop and change his central defensive partner, I think 3 times already this season. We're only 3 games in, which is wild. The midfield is where it's at, though. Big issues in that midfield. It's too industrious and it's not creative enough. And then the forward lines, Luis Diaz, he gives 100%. Still needs to work on his finished product, but much like Darwin Núñez, he is not the finished product. He's definitely a work in progress. Mohamed Salah, you can't complain about him. He's scored goals this season, and that's what he does, and that's what you've come to expect from the Egyptian. Through the middle, Darwin Núñez, that red card. I said everything I needed to say last week about that. And Firmino, I think, is finished as a footballer at the absolute elite level. I'm not saying he's finished completely. I think he'd be a good pickup for a side challenging for a Europa League spot in the Premier League, or maybe a top side in one of the clubs on the continent. But I think, like I said last week, it's a season of transition for Liverpool. I mean, they lost Sadio Mane, or sold Sadio Mane. And, any team would need to adjust after losing a world-class forward like that. And I think that's what happened. That's what's happening at Liverpool. Let's get into the armband poll. Everybody knows what this is. It's a moment. It's a player. It's a team. It's something from the last week in football that we want to discuss. Something that caught your eye. Could be good. Could be bad. Could be just meh. So, Paul, take it away. Who are you giving the armband to this week?
My armband goes to Christian Pulisic's agent. Get on it. Get it done. I don't know what's standing in your way. Maybe Chelsea is standing in your way. Maybe Chelsea really is keeping him hostage because Thomas Tuchel clearly does not believe in him. He doesn't want to play him. What's interesting about this armband is it's one that I came up with a week prior. Yep. And it's an idea I had. I wrote an article about this in Sports Bank the week before, and I wondered what was going to happen. And now, and then after another week, it just kind of reinforced it. So this is just bullshit. This is terrible, man. Timo Werner and Romelu Lukaku have been better since they left Chelsea. They're succeeding. Obviously, Lukaku was great at Inter Milan, and obviously Timo Werner was great in the Bundesliga. Lukaku was a total flop at Chelsea. Werner, he had some good assists. He contributed, but otherwise he's kind of considered a flop. Wasn't that great. Mm-hmm. Kai Havertz is kind of overrated in the eyes of Chelsea because he scored the European final game winner. Yep. Kai Havertz has been kind of it. So so what I'm asking you, the question I'll put you with this, it's like, we've seen the numbers, it's all there. Pulisic has been the more efficient producer per minute, definitely. You can even say he's even beyond that, more than just efficient producing, because Thomas Tuchel had him playing freaking wing back for like half the year last year. So he made him a defender. That really hurt his scoring. We know he's injury prone. We've been over that. But 2 questions for you. Okay. One, why do you think Tuchel doesn't rate him? And then number 2, how do you feel about what I just said about these other forwards? Like, how do you think he stacks up with the other Chelsea forwards?
So I'm not into the stats, but I'll tackle your second question first. I would believe that he is the more efficient minutes to goal ratio. I don't know how Chelsea, you just rattled off those three forward players. Kai Havertz is definitely a little bit overrated, but I say that with the caveat of he is not a striker, which is what he gets, or a false 9, which is what he plays a lot of the time at Chelsea. He's definitely more of an attacking midfielder, so it's a bit of a square peg in a round hole there. I think Lukaku and Werner have both gone back to the clubs that they originally arrived from. I know Lukaku's
right.
he's going great at Inter. I'm not too sure how Werner's going at Leipzig, but I think there's definitely something to that. Something is not right at Chelsea. You talk about Pulisic needing to leave. I think that's 100% true. I think even though he got 15, 20 minutes in the loss to Leeds, that was only because Tuchel realised that they were 3-0 down and needed a goal. They played with 6 attackers, I think, for the last 10, 15 minutes of that game. I think he does need to leave. Where he goes, nobody knows. I don't even know if there's interest in him, but if there is, maybe it's time for his agent to start putting start putting the foot down a little bit, start muscling in, and particularly with the United States World Cup coming up, and as we all know, Christian Pulisic is Captain America. You need him firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, that's a big point that I raised in my article that I wrote a couple weeks ago or last week about this. The World Cup's going to get here before you know it, and he's going to be what in EFL Cup matches, or I mean, I don't know. I just don't. I remember when Tuchel first took the job, the excuse he gave as to why he wasn't playing Pulisic right off the bat was, oh, well, he knows him from Dortmund and he's used to him, so he knows he can trust him. He wants to see what these other players are like. Give these other players a chance, see what they can do. Well, that's proven to be bullshit. And Tuchel is like every other manager. He knows how to talk without saying anything, and he knows how to say all the right things. But it's a bad system fit in terms of where he goes. I'm just going to play spoiler here on the armband and play spoiler on our show notes. Newcastle, he has been linked with a loan move to Newcastle.
I think that would be a great fit, and that's a great segue into my armband, which I am giving to Newcastle. Incredible performance against Manchester City. They might just be a real threat this season. And when I say that, I'm not saying they're going to challenge for the league. They might not even challenge for the Champions League spots, but they are a real team. St. James Park is becoming a fortress. And they are going to take a lot of points off of the big boys this year. And, I think they need to be credited for the way they're building after the takeover. I mean, they're the richest club in the world. They're not going and buying the shiny new thing for £100 million or whatever. They've definitely got a strategy and a format that they're building towards. And if I could just link the two, I think a move to Newcastle for Christian Pulisic would be fantastic. It'd be beneficial for both player and club. And by club, I mean Newcastle.
Yeah, I'm with you in that. I think they could be in the Europa League or the Conference League, but I don't think they're at Champions League level yet. But give it time. I'd say, last year was just about surviving. And they made some moves in the January window to kind of patch a few holes and ensure that. But I remember at the time of the takeover, we were laughing about that. We were laughing about, the richest club in the world having to be relegated. But we're not laughing now.
Nah. And I think we'll be laughing less and less as the years roll on.
We are flying through the match weeks and find ourselves in game week 4 in the English Premier League already. And there's more weeks coming fast and furious of what is definitely going to be fixture congestion. However, we're just going to stick to this weekend for right now. And as there are no matches that traditionally stand out for our typical focus match, we are going to go instead with two sides that have tremendous starts to the season so far. Brighton and Hove Albion versus Leeds United States of America.
If you told me a month ago that this would be our focus match, I would have told you were crazy. But these two sides have had tremendous starts to the season. I don't have a lot. There's not as much meat on the bone as perhaps you have with the traditional heavyweights, but I've got a couple of things here. Thanks to our good friends at Google. Um, Brighton and Hove Albion have won 8 of their last 11 league games against Leeds, which bodes really well. And Leeds are winless in their last 8 visits to the Amex. This should be a fantastic game. Brighton are unbeaten in their last 8 Premier League games, their longest ever run in the competition, and their joint longest in the top flight overall. Previously, they've gone 8 without defeat from October, November in 1981 in the old First Division. So this is truly uncharted waters for Brighton, and if they can get a win here over Leeds, which, spoiler, I think will happen.
Yeah, I mean, I like this. I like this decision to make them the focus match because these two sides don't ever get the opportunity to do that. So why not do it right now? And yes, thank you, Google, because Google yesterday handed the Sports Bank an SEO trophy of sorts, an award for I got something in my Gmail about getting 60,000 clicks in just 28 days. 60,000 clicks from just Google. So thank you, Google. And thank you, everyone who's interested in Mason Greenwood and what he's doing that's searching for him on that. I just wish that Brighton versus Leeds would get more. I hope like NBC would put this on Channel 5 on over the air TV. And just in general, that, like everyone, I think we're too Big Six oriented, and every outlet is that way pretty much across the world. And this is a chance to, I'm going to go with Leeds. I think I like what they've done. I think they're going to take care of business.
I'm going to stick with Brighton for my pick in this one. I think they've been good. I think they're a little bit further along in their development under Graham Potter as opposed to Leeds United States of America under Jesse Marsh. So I think they'll just take the chocolates this weekend.
No, I think Graham Potter is going to be the next big thing in football managers. And I also think that Leeds United States of America is our version of Believers was last year.
Yep, absolutely. I'm on board with that, Paul.
All right, next we've got Southampton hosting Manchester United.
So Southampton have been terrible. I'm well known as a Ralph Hasenhüttl fan, but I think his time is drawing to a close on the South Coast. Manchester United, they're going to win the league now, aren't they? They should account for Southampton pretty comfortably here.
You kidding? They're going to win a quadruple. They are going to win the quadruple. No, the other thing when you say Manchester United versus Southampton, you also have to think about 9-0.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying this is going to be 9-0, but I do think United are going to. I think they've woken up now. I think they're going to take care of business. Next, we're going to move on to 2 teams on the second page of the standings. And they're not 2 teams that you would think would be on the second page of the standings. One of them we've already slammed, so we can slam them some more here. And then the other one, we slammed quite a bit in the preseason episode, and that is Chelsea versus Leicester City. And believe it or not, just like we're like, hey, Leeds versus Brighton is 3 versus 5. This is 12 versus 19.
Yeah, this is like this is pre-Abramovich era Chelsea form at the moment. The way that they're playing. I guess credit where credit's due. They were fantastic against Tottenham and probably unlucky not to win. But the fact is they didn't win. I don't know if they're done in the transfer market, but they're missing a striker. Which, even when they had
They're definitely not. They're bidding 60 million pounds for some guy I've never heard of on Everton. According to all their fans, apparently this guy, Anthony Gordon, apparently he's exactly like Callum Hudson-Odoi, who's already on the team. They don't even play him. So
interesting. Chelsea, Leicester, despite all the shit I just piled on Chelsea there, I think that they'll probably be good enough to beat what is a very, very poor Leicester City side.
Yeah, and my pick is Chelsea here too. So I guess with that, we'll move on to second place Manchester City. Man, it's been a long time since I've said that. Hosting Crystal Palace. So I don't know. Is Lightning going to strike twice here, or is City going to drop points again?
Nah. Nah, they don't drop points 2 games in a row under Pep Guardiola. And as good as Crystal Palace have been, I think City will win this one. Crystal Palace won't let them have it all their own way, but Manchester City will walk away with the 3 points.
Yeah, I have a feeling this might be one of the more boring games of the weekend because it could be a rout. I don't know. I think it's and that's nothing against Crystal Palace. I kind of like some of the stuff they're doing there, but I think it's going to be one-sided. Plus, I wanted to get to the next match, which sees one non-title contender in Liverpool. One 16th place Liverpool hosting AFC Bournemouth.
There's been a lot of overreaction from the Liverpool fan base over our start to the season. And I'm part of that. We have been poor, so some of us deserve, but some of it's over the top. I'll tell you what, though, if Liverpool don't bank their first 3 points this weekend against Bournemouth at Anfield, it's going to go into overdrive, and hopefully Liverpool can win. I think that they will. I think that they should. But if they play anything like they've played in their opening 3 games, this will be a lot closer than it should be.
Fun fact, you're never gonna, I don't know if you'll ever see this again. What's not interesting here is Google's win probability of Liverpool at 89%, 8% for a draw, 3% chance for a Bournemouth win. That's not interesting. That's to be expected. What is interesting is when are you ever going to see a team that's above their opponent in the table be given a 3% chance of winning?
That is kind of fascinating. Wow, I didn't know that. Just harkening back to the Liverpool United game at kickoff.
Well, obviously Otis didn't either because Otis just chimed in. Otis, this is the first time you've done your punditry on this show in weeks.
It's been a while.
Months.
I was gonna schedule a Zoom meeting with Otis and just see why he hasn't been lifting his weight on the podcast, but he must have sensed it, and we can avoid that for another week. But you got to lift your game, Otis, mate. The fans and myself and Paul, we've come to expect more from you. So, lift your game, Otis.
Next, we're going to get to our Bees, and they are hosting Everton. And, one thing I did want to say, like on the flip side of what we were talking about earlier with that Anthony Gordon is Everton are in a spot now. Like, I know they don't want to sell him, and Frank Lampard doesn't want to get rid of him. But if it offers that outrageous, like you have to take it. Like it just has to happen. And if and when it does, what is Everton's attack going to be like? I already think the Toffees are bad to begin with. I'm going with the Bees.
Yeah, I think the Bees will win this one quite comfortably. Everton are still a bit of a shambles, but I think Frank Lampard will do enough to keep them up this year.
Then we have a London derby between your 2023 Premier League champion Arsenal and Fulham.
Yeah, Arsenal, as good as Fulham have been, Arsenal should win, but they need to come correct in this one because Fulham are no pushovers, and if they're even just a tiny bit off their game, this could be a big banana peel for the Gunners.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We have to remember something's going to happen here. I'm not saying this game or whatever, but Arsenal is going to drop points to somebody you won't expect. It happens to everybody. Mm-hmm. So let's not crown them yet. Mm-hmm. And here's an interesting angle for our next match. When we were doing our fashion police segment for Insert Name FC, mm-hmm. we were talking about the best and worst unis. And I actually thought that was a great segment that we did. I think just because we agreed a lot doesn't mean it was bad. I think sometimes when you agree a lot, it's true. I found a lot of people hated both these teams, Wolves and Newcastle, hated their outfits, hate their kits.
Yeah, I think it's the old gold of Wolves is nice, and the black and white of Newcastle is nice. I mean, they're both classic kits, but they get a bit too funky with their away kits, I think. Just a quick shout out, actually, Hector and Edward. Congratulations on your 100th episode of Insert Name FC. Here's to plenty more, and it was a lot of fun doing 3 up, 3 down over there. Definitely give it a listen this week. Paul and I just taking our talents to the Insert Name FC podcast for just a brief segment. But getting back to this game, I think Newcastle will win. I think Newcastle will definitely win a lot of these 50-50 games, or you would have considered them 50-50 games probably this time last year. But I think that they'll account for Wolves nicely.
I could not agree more. And then I think in this next match, I think we already know who we're going to pick. The matchup of the two teams that wear the same colors, but very unique colors, though. So credit that. Aston Villa hosting West Ham.
Mm-hmm. So West Ham, shit. We've spoken about that already. Aston Villa, also shit. Just slightly less shit. So I think that'll probably... I think that'll probably see them pick up the win over West Ham here.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And then finally, we closed with newly promoted Nottingham Forest hosting Tottenham Hotspur in a matchup of the two most British named clubs in the entire league.
So I think Tottenham will win. Nottingham Forest, I can't help but have a bit of a soft spot for them. I hope they stay in the Premier League, but this is a bridge too far for them. Tottenham should account for them quite comfortably.
Agreed.
This is Paul's favorite part of the podcast, the Pop Culture Corner. It's fast becoming a hit. Paul, what do you have for us in the world of pop culture this week, my man?
Now, this is why I'm saying it's the best pop culture corner we've ever had, because it was about something that really defined what pop culture was at the time and in some ways continues to do today. And that is, there are dueling documentaries out there about Woodstock 99, the music festival that became an utter and complete shit show and ended with a riot and was, they called it profit stock more than anything for all the way they gouged everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I have not seen the Netflix one. The Netflix one is called Trainwreck. The one that I saw is called Peace, Love, and Rage. And the reason I feel it's just so important is because, we were in our early 20s then. So we were at that age of that's when you are so-called with it and when you're hip and when you're most in tune with pop culture. And it just really kind of took me back to where we were then in the late 90s. And it's amazing to see just how many, there's so much, this could be a whole show just by itself. Be a whole, I'll try to keep it from going too long. But do you remember kind of what you were listening to back then and what you were kind of into in the late 90s, early 2000s?
Absolutely. And I've seen this documentary, this Peace, Love, and Rage. Fantastic. Made by Bill Simmons of the Ringer fame and ESPN. Fantastic. One of my idols in the media world. But yeah, I was listening to the bands and the rappers and stuff that were at Woodstock 99, Limp Bizkit, Korn, DMX, all these names. I found it interesting that you called Woodstock 99 a shit show. I think it was actually literally a shit show for a time there.
Yeah, the excrement. Yeah, they had issues with the porta potties and so there was literal excrement that people were rolling around in, and they had no idea. They thought it was mud. Interesting. I looked $4 bottled water when adjusted for inflation.
Mm-hmm.
That's $7 per bottled water today.
Okay. So...
And then they said, they said they had, you can go to this fountain here, and there was this free water. Fuck that, man. There's 350,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
How much water was there? And what do you got to do? Stand in line for an hour and a half to even get just ridiculous. Everything. What were your main takeaways from watching the documentary?
So I think that your main point about just the change in the popular culture over the last 20 years is, something like this would be what word can I? Something like that would be cancelled. It would 100% be cancelled in 2022 or in the 2020s. It's stark how things have changed. Not gonna lie, the soundtrack did peak a little bit of nostalgia for me, but there was just the attitudes and some of the things that went on you couldn't imagine happening at a music festival today. I will say $4 bottle of water adjusted for inflation is $7. As someone who was recently at a music festival, I can attest that they probably got the price of the water bottle spot on.
Yeah, and to go on what you were saying about things being canceled today.
Yeah.
You had so much misogyny, so much homophobia.
Mm-hmm.
I always felt, I'm not. This is what I'm a big believer in this. You judge everyone and everything by how they were in the standards of their day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Yep.
That said, you can say, oh my God, did this age horribly? Oh my God, was this? I always felt kind of like the final third of the movie Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. That was from 1994. And I'm like, wow, that was just nothing but transphobia for like the last half hour. But here, this one, I had completely forgotten Girls Gone Wild ever existed.
Yep.
And I remember Girls Gone Wild, those infomercials, that ran like nonstop for like 3-4 years. That was like ubiquitous. That was pervasive. And you're like, wow. And I also thought it was funny, the point about new metal, I guess was the brand, the genre of music. I like the guys like, all you had to do was have a DJ who's like, a wiki, wiki, wiki. It's like a little sound effect, a wiki, wiki. You're like, that qualified as a band.
What a bizarre time 1999 was. Okay, well, that's it for another week. As usual, follow us at our Twitter account at @AfterET_podcast. Or if you only like Paul and you're of a Manchester United proclivity, follow Paul at Paul M. Banks. If you'd like to wallow in our crapulence over here at Liverpool, follow me at Stueys is sick of it. A lot of wallowing in crapulence going on the football side of things on my Twitter feed, that's for sure. Also, follow at Edge of the Crowd on all the good social media channels. Check out edgeofthecrowd.com, Australia's leading sports news and pop culture website. Be sure to get all your latest football news at thesportsbank.net. And while you're at it, hit up at the Sportsbank Official on Instagram. Finally, show the third member of our pod some love. He lifted his weight this week, so give at Otis Ginger Tabby a follow on Instagram. If you enjoy the podcast, please click that subscribe button. And if you really dig it, please take the time to give us a 5-star rating. But until next week, he's Paul M. Banks. I'm Stuart Kavanagh, and this has been After Extra Time.
He has nailed that. Sheer ferocity. Boy, that flew. Well, sometimes when they're hit, they stay hit. Kieran Tierney.